storytelling is unique. Obviously, you need to have a framework. And if you'd ask me what my typical framework would look like, I would say it's simple, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're saying suits the narrative, it suits the end goal, it suits the outcome.
When we talk of branding, or when we talk of owning your voice, when we talk of be the brand you want to sell, is essentially mean that people are not really, people buy goods and services out there, but today, especially today, people buy you, not what you are offering.
How can you highlight the customer as the hero? How do you highlight me if I'm recruiting? How do I highlight my company as the hero in the journey? And how are you the guide to get me from point A to point B so that I can see you as the bridge to get to the destination?
Your story, your narrative, and why you should own your voice. Whether you are a small business owner, a content entrepreneur, or you simply want to build your influence, storytelling is probably going to be your best instrument to connect with your audience. So join the awakened few who are owning their voices. Now let's get started with today's episode. So the conversation we have today is a continuation of what we have always done here, which is about storytelling and how to use storytelling in our business. And of course, today we are looking at the right framework for effective business storytelling. So by that, we are trying to look at what are the strategy, what are the different formats of story that we can use, and how can we use them so that we can continue to leverage it for our own benefit in our business. And I understand that most of you are in businesses, so you want to leverage the power of storytelling in what you are doing. That is why you are here, because you understand that storytelling is a powerful instrument that you can use, that you can always use. Of course, not only in business, you can use it in anything, in everything. I believe that today you have engaged in storytelling. You have told somebody about something that have happened to you, or that have happened to somebody, or that you have heard, or somebody have told you, or that you somehow that have come into your consciousness of an experience that somebody have passed through. That is story. And even the one that you imagine that have not yet happened, they are all part of our common narrative. So all these are very important. And of course, our business storytelling, or the use of storytelling in business is slightly different from that, in that when we tell story in business, we are creating it in a way that it lead to a certain objective. It's not simply to while away time. It have a goal behind it. So that is why it's different from the story that maybe you would tell, maybe like in the evening, you are sitting down, you are just narrating a story. This one is different from that. So of course, we need to have different framework to make sure that it works. We need to have a strategy behind it. It's not just to feed paper with words, or to feed the audio file with words. There are strategy behind it, and there are reasons why certain story work. There are reasons why if you take up an ad, or maybe listen to a speech that is well curated, you see certain pattern continuously be repeated all the time, whether you are looking at the speeches that are made by important politicians, or look at business executive, or look at good orators speaking on stage. You will see certain patterns that are coming all the time. Those patterns are what we are also talking about today as framework. Why are they continuously using them? Because it works. That is exactly what it is. All right. For those of you who do not know the backstory or the background behind this storytelling series, let me just share a few things about me. Then, of course, I'll pass the microphone to the diligent and the trusting people who are here helping me to pass the message to you guys. They are sort of alive not to be able to tap into their wealth of expertise, but I'll come to that shortly. So originally, I am from Nigeria. I live in northern Italy, in the city called Verona. So if you have read the story of Romeo and Juliet, that is the city where I am, where the story actually set. So when I came to this city, 2004, of course, I've always been a curious person. The first interview I did, I was in Nigeria then. I actually went to the police station. That is a long story of itself, so I'll just leave that aside. So I've always loved to ask questions. So when I come here, I was asking a question about who were the first Africans in this city. Because of course, I could understand that I'm just coming in, yes, but I'm going to be like the people that I've met here, even though they have been 25 years, 30 years before I came to meet them. So for me, it was natural that I was just asking them questions. I would sit down with them. I would spend hours asking them questions and listening to them. So because I wanted to understand their story, I also wanted to document their story, not just listening to them. Because I tried to find out this story, I didn't really find it around. So I felt it was important to document this story. So that is why I embarked on the journey in 2013 until 2018 and beyond that. So having collected different information, which of course I translated into two books and a documentary film that we projected here in Northern Italy, I came to understand the importance of storytelling, how important it can be for an individual, for a community, and for businesses. And of course, this series is sort of geared towards businesses, but there is another aspect of it that is also very important for me that shortly we will also open on. It's about community building, how we can use storytelling, our experiences to build ourselves as a people. And of course, as a people, I'm sort of more targeting the African diaspora community, because of course that is where the story started here in northern Italy. So this is where we are coming from the collection of experiences of people of African descent in northern Italy. So that is a sort of the backstory, because I put what I've learned together, try to help other people who want to understand how to leverage this awesome power of storytelling. And it really have been very interesting, thanks to different individuals who find interest in what we are doing, like Tanya and Isu, and many other individuals out there who, through their wealth of experiences, were able to reach more people and share with them this gospel of storytelling. Because, like I often say, it is not new. We have done this since the dawn of time. It's a powerful instrument. It's an awesome instrument. We just need to learn how to use it better so we can better leverage it in our businesses. All right. With that said, I will pass the mic to Tanya. Okay, we usually would say lady and gentleman. So Tanya, we are starting with you. Would you want to tell people something about you? Then we'll pass the mic on to Izu.
Thanks, Obehi, for that. Yeah, it seems that the ladies, we always get the first turn nowadays. So, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for making the time this evening, this morning, depending on where you are. So, I'm Tanya. I run a go-to-market and revenue growth consultancy. I'm based in South Africa. And we primarily work with tech companies and tech-enabled companies to take their products and their services to market, and sometimes to relaunch new products or services. And one of the things that we are known to do is to leverage storytelling to both entertain, attract, and convert prospects. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to having this conversation because this is one of my favorite things to do, tell stories for a living.
I love that. That is very sophisticated, as Italian would put it. All right, we are coming to that shortly. All right, Izu, it's your turn. Tell people who you are, what they can benefit from you.
Right. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And it feels really good to be here again. We give thanks to God Almighty for bringing us onto a new week. So, my name is Izu Samuel, and I'm joining here today from where we call Abuja in Nigeria. I am an investigative journalist with Al Jazeera, but apart from that, my assignment with that organization is all centered around building connection amongst nations, amongst parastatals, leveraging the power of storytelling. And on a personal note, I run an agency and I lead an agency that helps people to be able to tell their stories. And this I have done in the past 10 years plus. And I'm happy to be here today to share a couple of frameworks, not just frameworks, but workable ideas that can spark the need for all of us here to begin to tell our stories, because one story is enough to inspire many other stories across the ends of the world. My name is Isu Samuel, and I'll yield the mic to you, Mr. Obehi. Let's get this room going. Over to you, man.
All right, it's going. The room is going. All right, I want to remind the rest of us that are in the room that we welcome your contribution. We want to hear from you. We are not just here to talk to you, we're also here to listen to you. We believe that your perspective, how you see it, is important. So, any of you that feel that you have something to say, either to contradict what we have said, to add to it, or in any way, we believe that your point of view is important. In my podcast, the Obehi podcast, I say it often that everyone has a story to share. And I'm not saying it just to sound good. I really do believe that everyone has a story to share. So your point of view is important. All right, Iso, while you were still there, something was actually cooking in my head. You said a kind of a framework that should work or something like that. Maybe I get it wrong, but in any case, we are looking at the right framework for effective business story today. When you look at that title, what comes to your mind? What should people be thinking in terms of the right framework for effective storytelling? Of course, looking at business in this case.
Yeah, so that I would consider to be an intelligent and a genius question. The first thing that would happen here when you talk about framework, people want to talk about it from the angle of academics, but I'm not going to approach it from the dimension. I'm going to approach it from the dimension and the reality of human interaction, and coming from a place where you are going to be interacting with the challenges of people. You see, you don't tell stories to entertain people. You tell stories to empower people. Now, coming from that dimension and reality about storytelling, I'm going to say that one of the major frameworks that builds a nexus between the impact of our story and the values that our brands command is what is called solution proposition. I would have said value proposition, but I have decided to say solution proposition because for every story you want to listen to, every story possesses what is called a resolution. And the resolution of every given story is what determines the impact and the solutions that a story commands. So I'm going to say that the first framework that we have to pay attention to is the framework of solution proposition, building it on the basis and the vascularity of the importance of the need to look to resolution about every given story. To wrap it off, there is no business, there is no association, no network across the ends of the world that doesn't have a story. And it is on the basis of that, I would say to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to build your business and be able to command and communicate the values of your business to the next generation to come, you have to pay attention to solution proposition as it connects to resolution. Izu Samuel, and over to you, Mr. Obehi.
Before I come to you, Dr. Dorothea, thank you so much for joining us, but I'll come to you just now. I want first to ask Tanya a question. You see, Tanya, I shared just now the background of this storytelling series, where we are coming from. In fact, I really do remember. I remember, for example, I was in Padova, which is the city next to me here. And then I was interviewing a Ghanaian woman who is married to, was another Ghanaian, but she was already a teacher in her country in Ghana before she moved here. But in her story, that she never had the chance to be able to work with her qualification. So she have to take up a work as a cleaner. Of course, that is the situation of many people of African descent in Italy, and of course many other part of Europe. Now, I just say that because I look at these people as people that have a lot of opportunity, that maybe we could mop out this idea, this knowledge that we have, and try to sort of give ourselves even the job that we are looking for, thanks to the magic of internet. Now, let's say somebody is having this in mind and want to build up a business, but he want to communicate that message to the people. And let's pretend that these people are the African diaspora community and they might be living anywhere in the world. Because we are looking at the community, how would you frame a story that can reach to their heart? So that, because if you don't reach their heart, they cannot give you their dollars. Help me with that.
Oh, Obe, you like to give me the tough ones, eh? All right. So, okay, I'm one of those people. As much as I love telling stories, I'm a woman, and ladies and gents, I think we can all agree that we love money. So I definitely love telling stories that make money. So it's very important to distinguish different type of stories that you need to say. And I've often shared on this platform different type of frameworks. But today what I wanted to speak about, to really touch on, and especially since it's about business storytelling, I really wanted to bring the attention, just like you say, around persuasive storytelling, because there are stories that we tell that is there to really just make sense of our existence as businesses. But then there are stories that we need to tell with the purpose of usually getting the audience to spend the money with your business. And that's often with the distinction that needs to be made as to leveraging stories, because there are such things as the normal frameworks we often touch on, and in the copywriting, the persuasive copywriting school of thought, to which I adhere to, there are things that we call the persuasive storytelling frameworks, and one of them is actually even popular amongst salespeople, and that's spin. I think everyone has heard of spin, and in just like you would in a sales situation, you would have the situation, it's spin. So just remember SPIN for those that are gonna be taking notes. So you have the first letter is your situation, where you set the stage, you describe the situation, the problem that the hero is always the customer. I've often shared that here. So the hero is always the customer, and you really describe the situation that they are facing. And this is what anybody in the diaspora would have to do, for example. And then they will go on to describe the problem, and where they will introduce the problem, the challenge that needs to be addressed, and really outline what are the obstacles that are happening, the difficulties that are happening in front of the hero's journey, like what are they going through. And after that, then what are the implications of not doing anything? Like, if they don't do anything, what's going to happen if they don't address the problem? And eventually the payoff, which is usually the payoff, where you describe your solution and propose your idea. This framework, which is actually very much a sales framework, when you incorporate that into storytelling, you really create persuasive stories that make sense to people that need to buy. And this is something that I often advise clients, consulting clients, whether it is tech clients or people in the coaching side of a business, that it's very important that you distinguish. Because a lot of times we all hear the hero journey. I love a good hero journey. I write them all the time when I'm feeling really lazy. But when you're really trying to make sales, it's really important that you incorporate sales psychology into the stories that you tell. So I don't know if that's answering your question, Obe.
It does. It does answer the question. Of course, you are running nowhere. I'm going to come back to you again. But first, I want to go to Dr. Dorothea. Thank you so much for joining us. We really love to have you here. I would like to hear from you too. Please go on and share with us.
Well, hello. Thank you for inviting me to the stage. So I feel like the topic is very important to where I am now in my career journey. So I am not a business owner yet. I've been resistant to that idea for decades, but I'm not a business owner yet. However, I was recently let go from my job with a reduction in force. So now I am the product that I am selling. And this information is really critical from that standpoint as well. And I love what you say about you have to embrace their hearts before they give you their money. And it's the same with regard to going into an interview. You have to engage their hearts. And you have to show solutions. I've never really heard the phrase solution proposition before. I've always heard the phrase value proposition, but I appreciate the phrase solution proposition significantly more. One reason is because I'm an analytical chemist, so I'm all about solving problems and solutions, right? So that really speaks to me very closely. And I just want to say, sorry, to try to take this in and use it as part of your personal branding strategy. Business strategy, personal branding strategy and job search. Because really, right, at the end of the day, that customer or that potential employer is going to be your hero to some extent. And so look at it that way. And I appreciate the discussion. And I'm happy that I was sent this notification for this call so that I could be on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Dorothea. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. Come here often because here we are very contagious with our laughter. And very soon, that your movement into becoming a business owner is going to become a reality soon. Because a lot of people here are business owner, or maybe people that like to be in business, and those are already in business. Because very soon they will influence you to maybe ginger you up a bit. You will be there where you want to go in owning your own business. Also, because in the diaspora community, we preach it almost like a gospel that we must own our business. In fact, in relation to that, there is a book I read a couple of years ago. The book is The Science of Getting Rich by Watto Wallace. That book was written in 1910. At a point in Watto's in between the test, he was saying something really interesting, that most of the times, what we do is not what we love to do. That is what situation allow us to do. But he's talking of the rat race, talking of the 9 to 5, talking of the day job, talking of after we have graduated, or maybe we didn't go to school, after we have gotten a job, and like the goat that you are putting a sugar on his mouth, all the time he just do and time is just passing by. You don't like the job, yes, it is. You know that you don't like the job, but you are still there. But the question, what Watto was saying there is that take that job, but make sure you are planning your exit. So that while you are doing what you don't like to do, plan towards knowing how to do. That is, make sure that move you to doing what you like to do. Of course, that obviously means learn how to set up your own business so that you can be doing what you like to do. Of course, it's a transition. So I just want to tell you again that that is something that you really need to give a serious consideration, and you will never regret it. All right, Isu, you see, Dorothea was thinking what I was thinking actually. In fact, I've done something when you were making the first response to the question I asked you before. Now you were saying valuable and solution proposition. For me too, I was reflecting on that. That is a very nice twist in the proposition. Now, I want to put the question to you like this. How do you determine what is valuable, and what do you want to say about the solution proposition as a framework for effective business storytelling? I want you to expand on that better for people here, please.
All right, thank you so much. You keep asking very smart questions, and I am very happy that you are moderating this conversation from a very brilliant perspective. So when I talk about solution proposition, how it relates to the value concept, the word value has been overly used across the social media. Everybody's talking about offer value, and all of those. And there is nothing absolutely wrong with that word at all. And I'm going to break it down here, but I like to keep my things very simple. So the first thing I am going to say about a story being solution driven, like I stated when I said what I said about the concept of resolution. You see, every business was built on what is called a profile, a system, the vision, the motivation, the philosophy, and all of those profiling about every given business across the globe. Now, where storytelling comes in to benefit that concept is what I would call the experience that the story seeks to address, the experience that the story seeks to communicate, rather. Now, I'll give you a very good example. Years ago, a certain lady in Kenya wanted to export tomatoes to European countries. And she thought about it. I produce millions of balls of tomatoes, and people in my country, they can't even consume it. People in my family, they can't even consume everything I'm producing. But I want to take these tomatoes across to the ends of the world. And one day, she thought about it, she designed the concept, built everything that she wanted to do, and then she wanted to launch out. She wasn't able to launch out because there were no finances and resources to push the idea forward. And that very night, some mouse, like some local ants, some local animals, came into the house and consumed 68.1% of those tomatoes. And the woman woke up in the morning to realize that all the tomatoes she had worked for, some miserable animals came into her house, the kitchen, and consumed a portion of those tomatoes. And she started crying. She cried out to the king, and the king was so disturbed. The king cried out to the prime minister. The prime minister decided to cry out to the state. And from the state, they invited the woman, and the woman was able to propose the vision, the idea to them. And that was how that idea was birthed. And today, in that country, they produce one of the best tomatoes that can be exported across the globe. Now, if you listen to the short story I just related to you, this is the power of offering value when you communicate a story in the concept of business. Every business was built with one thing in mind. Every business was built to make profit. So any story that you're going to tell or share or show must be the kind of a story that is profit based. So when I use the word value, I'm talking about profit based. And I'm not talking about profit in terms of just making money, but profit in terms of what brings a level of solution and solving people's problems back to back, end to end. So when I bring this solution to the table, when I bring this profit to the table to the people, they're going to come back to the table to offer me what I am in need of. And when they offer me what I'm in need of, I give them my tomatoes and they give me my finances. So this is just an illustration to define and command and communicate the concept of value on its own. The importance of value is that there is an impact being made. And let me say that again. The importance of value is that there is an impact being made, a very significant impact being made. And the impact is usually not one-sided. The impact is usually two-sided. The first person gets the impact, the second person gets the impact, and it's just so consistent. And this is just what I have always believed in. And the business owners I have worked with, I always say to them, look, if you want people to buy into what you're selling, you have to tell a story that is value-based. And by telling a story that is value-based, you have to be able to present a story that seeks to address a challenge. And when your story can address a challenge, it is possible for the people listening to you, the investors listening to you, to want to come into it, because nobody wants to put their money into something that is not going to yield fruit. So people will put their money into something that would grow. And the word profit, as connected to value, would always give rise and give birth to anything that would always increase and expand. Over to you, Mr. Obehi. If you allow me, I'm just going to give an episode and I'll keep talking and talking and talking. Thank you so much, my friend.
Before I bring in Grace to say something, which of course I'm really looking forward to, I picked something from what Dorothea was saying before. Then I want to ask something to Tanya about that. I don't know how it struck any of you, but it struck me when she said, I am the product I am selling, or something like that. No, I think that is important. It is important because when we talk of branding, or when we talk of owning your voice, when we talk of be the brand you want to sell, is essentially mean that people are not really, people buy goods and services out there. But today, especially today, people buy you, not what you are offering. If you are if you are not valuable, what you are offering might not actually be that valuable. Of course, unfortunately, that is what it is today, the world we are living in. So when Dorothea said that, I was just shaking my head. Now, Tanya, say maybe, for example, um, you were to build a business framework or a strategy on that. Say maybe, I don't know, you can call it a kind of an advice to Dorothea on how to build a business storytelling about that phrase that she said. Or maybe I misquoted her, but that is what is in my head. I am the product I am selling. What would you do about that? How would you frame a kind of a business story around that to stand out in your business?
All right. Thanks, Obe, for that question. I was actually thinking about that even just when Isu was speaking. And the reality is that when you are in your career, you are indeed a product. You are indeed a business in itself when you are working in the corporate world, and you do have to sell yourself. And one of the things that I often see amongst, and this is often because I've worked with people that were transitioning from the corporate space to start their businesses, and they wanted to start selling the services. And the biggest issues that I often saw was that people often presented themselves with their features. So this is what I've been doing. So this is often the problem. And even when you are in search mode for a job. For example, I'm currently in recruitment, in a recruitment stage. We are recruiting at a company, and I'm going through a lot of CVs, and the applications that stood out to me were the applications through the emails that told me how they solved the problem. And those were the applications that are actually shortlisted because they really were showcasing how they would solve the problem of the roles that we are currently recruiting for. So this is often the perspective, the shift, because you are indeed a product. You are indeed selling because you are the product because you're selling your time for the money. And this is the shift that needs to be made. So how can you, if let's say, because we are, I'll give my own company for an example. We are currently recruiting because we just recruited a sales manager because one of the things with me is I absolutely hate managing sales teams. So the reason why he was recruited, and this is because he actually pitched himself for the job. He didn't even know that I was recruiting for that particular position. This person pitched himself for the job, and the way he presented himself was like, "Hey, I know that this is what you're doing with your company right now. And this is what I have done. And these are the solutions that I brought with such company. These are the results that we were able to achieve. Is there a possibility for us to have a chat?" Immediately, I was open to it because I knew that I had a particular pain that I really needed solved, but I hadn't really thought about solving it because I just didn't feel like going through the recruitment phase. So this is often the way people need to position themselves. So can you position yourself as the solution? It's simply how do you tell the story of what you have achieved in the past? What have you done in your previous positions that impacted the business, that impacted the results that the business wanted? Because at the end of the day, as a CEO, the biggest thing I care about is the bottom line. How do you drive the results to my bottom line? How do you drive the results to me achieving the vision that I want to achieve, even from things that you can glimpse? Because this gentleman, what he had done was he had gone through the website, had seen that I had spoken about scaling. He had seen that I had spoken about transitioning my business model from being a personal brand-led business to a company-led business because I wanted to be able to exit. And he brought that into his email. That's why I got the meeting. And this is one of the most important thing I often say to people, whether you're transitioning and starting a business, or you are selling yourself as a person, because even as a career person, you have a personal brand. It's how can you highlight the customer as the hero? How do you highlight me if I'm recruiting? How do I highlight my company as the hero in the journey? And are you the guide to get me from point A to point B, so that I can see you as the bridge to get to the destination? That's what is very important. I don't know if this is making sense for everybody here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Absolutely, making a lot of sense. And I really appreciate you and appreciate also sharing. I really do. And of course, I think I said it in the last meeting that we had here, that okay, when you listen to Tanya and Isu talking, you might say, okay, maybe it just started like this. No, it didn't start like this. It never started like this. In fact, I'm preparing an introduction to storytelling, a course. It's going to be probably a free course that I'll put out there. Then I was making a reference to Steve Jobs when Steve Jobs was advertising Lisa, for example. Steve Jobs produced, I think, 9 pages in New York Times, which was filled with jargons. Okay, jargon in the sense that they were technical terms, and it was very long, of course, because he or Apple at the time thought that they were going to be able to convince the American public because he was highly eloquent, highly class. Because of course, Lisa cost $10,000 at the time. But what Steve Jobs realized that actually it flopped in the market. The people didn't want to buy it. Now, this is Steve Jobs of all. Of course, we will later realize that Steve Jobs became really very powerful in being able to sell Apple products. But he didn't start like that. That is just what I wanted to point out here. That maybe when you see Tanya talking or see Isu talking, they didn't start like that. They grew up from zero to where they are today. And of course, they still have a lot of places to go. Why I'm saying that is that any one of you that is in the audience can do the same. You might not be at that level right now, but you can do the same. All you just need to do is to start where you are right now. Don't worry even if you make mistakes. Don't worry even if people laugh at you. Don't worry, because that is not your objective. Your objective is not whether or not people will laugh at you. Your objective is you want to improve yourself from where you are now to be better than where you are now tomorrow. So you need to do that. If you don't start now, you can never be better because you cannot get to a destination you didn't start. All right, that is just by the way. We have Grace in the room. Grace, we want to hear from you. Please share with us. It might be that you want to tell us how you use storytelling in your business, or maybe you want to add to the conversation that we are having today, which is the right framework for effective storytelling in business. Please go ahead. We want to learn from you.
Good morning from my time zone, and good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Obehi. This is a great room. I actually was really inspired by Dr. Dorothea's comment about selling yourself, and you guys already beat me to it. So, and I wanted to just kind of endorse everything Tanya said on that topic, and add a little bit to that as I was really encouraged by the topic. And one thing that I wanted to, it's kind of probably a repeat of some sort, but Tanya and even Izu, I think both of you mentioned this, is that we are always selling ourselves, right? One thing that I wanted to add to that is by selling ourselves, in comparison to the entrepreneurial life and the recruiting life, just to give you a little background on myself, you can see it in my title that I am global talent recruiter, but also come from a career of account management in the past, working for companies such as Toshiba and etc. So I had the opportunity to dip in both areas as account manager in sales, but also as a recruiter in selling the product of skill sets and contribution to organizations, right? So in selling yourself in that framework, I see it as selling what do you bring to the table, and you do that as an entrepreneur as well. So if you are selling yourself as a as somebody called it earlier, being a product, selling yourself as a product to a job market, I would say you already are an entrepreneur. Your product is you, and your business is you, and that is basically you may have not the LLCs and things like that to back you up, but you already are in the business of soliciting yourself a and what you bring to your table to the table. So I just wanted to make that one point, and in that regard as well, to add to Jesus, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anybody's names here, sorry. But it's in regards to communicating. You mentioned it earlier, and I learned something as an account manager a long time ago, and this is something that I found was applicable to almost everything. You can translate it into different situations, and that is when we tell people, we communicate to people. Um, from the very beginning, saying what we are about to do, what we are doing, and what we just did for them, right? And just kind of give them a step by step contribute step by step explanation as to why we are doing what we are doing and so forth. And this seems very simple, but if you translate that in every aspect of what you are considering yourself selling, it actually has a really great impact, I find. And I think the biggest important part is to understand that everybody's selling something all the time, whether it's our opinion, whether it's our values, whether it's our, whether it's a product, so from that perspective, I feel like it's all part of the entrepreneurial mindset. It's all part of the entrepreneurial movement. And so if you are doing that already for yourself to the job market, you should you can consider yourself already as an entrepreneur. Is I think, to wrap it up. Sorry, I didn't have notes, so I should have probably put down some notes and get that a little bit better framed. But I hope the point came across. I just wanted to make a couple points there. A, you're always selling yourself. B, or something rather. And as someone who is selling their skill set, you're already an entrepreneur. And C would be in the communication part of everything, is just kind of communicate step by step from what from the beginning till the end, and just kind of walk people through the steps as to what you were actually going to do for them and did, and so forth. Yeah, so I hope that made sense, but that's what I was going to add to that.
Grace, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is so beautiful, so beautifully well said. Uh, see, of course, maybe before I forget, I'll probably go to come to this question again when I ask the guest in the room to respond to that. In that we really are selling ourselves all the time. Now, I want you to imagine a little child that is crying for either a milk or candy. Now, you ask yourself, what is the child doing? Because what we really do in adult is to try and replicate what we used to do as children. Because as children, we don't know what is no. We only know what is yes. You don't tell the child you are not going to give him or her. The child is going to, the child doesn't understand why you cannot do that. So he's going to use the only atomic bomb that they have, which is to cry. And when your child is crying, you are supposed to feel something. Now, the child knows that when he or she cry, you are going to respond. So he or she cried because it needs something. But as an adult now, maybe you want to get something, and maybe somebody just tell you no, you just okay, maybe you are offended because of the way he told you. I look at the way he just look at me. Okay, he didn't even want to give me before. Okay, let me just forget it. But children don't do that. Children insist. And because they insist, in most of the cases, they get what they want. I imagine, for example, my son, who is going to be 6 just now. If you want to watch his cartoon, maybe I don't want you to watch that particular cartoon. Maybe I want to watch another thing, or maybe I want you to concentrate on something else. Maybe at a point he begin to cry. Of course, at a point, I'm going to let him have his way after I had tried to prevent it. What is my child doing? What are children doing in that sense? They are selling something. They are making sure that they get what they want. They are making sure that they use their voice. They use the only tool that they have, which is what they are saying that I need it. That is what I need. All right. I just want to leave that there. I will probably come to that later. TC, I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Please, it's your turn.
Okay, so regarding my name, right? It's always very interesting to get a different version every now and then. So it's fine. It's really fine, but it's actually TC, right? But
Thank you for that. Thank you.
you're
TC.
welcome. You're welcome. So listening to Grace, right? Grace said something. She said everyone is selling something. And that aspect I totally agree, because I feel like every single of our actions as individuals, as humans, we sell something, right? We sell something, we are exchanging something for something, right? Our day-to-day activities, regardless of what profession you find yourself in, as a doctor, as a nurse, as a engineer, as a whoever, you are selling something. Now what you sell is basically what is different, and your approach to selling, I guess that's what basically makes us different in our area of expertise, right? Now I saw the topic, okay, and I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, is that really like a single straight framework, right? To using storytelling effectively for our business? I would say, in my own opinion, no, right? Because storytelling is unique. Obviously, you need to have a framework. And if you'd ask me what my typical framework would look like, I would say it's simple, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're saying suits your narrative, it suits the end goal, it suits the outcome. We're going to use storytelling. I know that we talk about storytelling a whole lot on LinkedIn, right? And too many people are now trying to understand and leverage storytelling, even in our day-to-day activities. Like, imagine when you go to your local market, for example, your local store, your local grocery shop, and you meet somebody, okay, and then they're saying to you, or you just meet a fellow customer, right, in the store, and they're saying to you, what do you think about this? Right now, at this particular time, they need your opinion. Your opinion is basically what will determine what their next step would look like. Now, you are going to be selling your opinion to them, right? Because whatever you say, how you say it, is a very big determinant to what their next step would look like, or what their next step would be, right? So same goes to your business. You don't want to tell a story that do not tally or do not align with what exactly you want your readers or your audience to do, right? You want to make sure that the whole thing, your story suits, okay, your story suits the narrative, it suits the outcome. Your story is basically, your story resonates, right, to whoever you want to listen to you. And I personally feel that every story that needs to be told is unique, right? Unique to a certain audience, unique to a certain situation, unique to a certain business, and so how you tell a particular story right here in this room obviously should be different from how you tell that same story in another circumstance or in another situation. Why? Because you are tailoring your story to what exactly you are, what kind of scenario, what kind of situation, the people you're speaking to at that particular time, right? So it's really you being just relatable, you being authentic, and you understanding that your story has an end point. Your story is not life everlasting, right? Your story is not till eternity. Your story has an end goal. So make sure that there is a beginning, there is a middle, and obviously there is an end to your story, because that's basically where it helps you get the returns and the results that you need. Your story has a goal and it needs to accomplish a certain outcome. So I just wanted to say that, because I see a little of diverse people in the room. So hey, it doesn't really matter what you're saying. I always say this: it doesn't matter the profession you are in at this particular time. What matters is your story relevant? Is it authentic? Does it resonate with that particular person you're trying to attract at that particular time? Now, if your answer is yes, then tell that story and get the outcome that you desire. That's it for me. Thank you so much, Obehi and TC, and I give my back to you.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I do. It reminds me one time, I think I don't remember what was happening. I think I was presenting a documentary of mine, and we were talking of storytelling. Then we were talking of oral narration. Because where I grew up in a village in Nigeria, no, and I'm very proud of that, because that is what helped me to understand my basis. So that when I talk about my culture, I have my feet on the ground. I talk from experience. I'm not talking of what I've read in a book. So I'm really very proud of the fact that I grew up in the village. So the type of story that we have in the village, just to come to in agreement with you, is very organic, because oral narration is that you take the story, it's the same story almost all the time, and you bring it to the situation that you are talking. You are going to condition it to suit that situation. It's the same story all the time, but in what context are you telling the story? Because the same story just now you are telling that make people to laugh. If you tell the same story, the same identical story in another place, it might it might not make people laugh, but it might make them reflect in a different way. So yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes is how you tell the story. Of course, how you tell the story will also mean that the basic framework, of course, you also concluded it correctly. The basic framework you need to be there. The story need to have a middle, need to have the beginning, need to have a middle, need to have an end. You need to know how to elicit emotion. Of course, there are a lot of delicate balance inside the story that make it work. So that is why sometimes story is simple, but it's not as simple as it appears to be. That is why we need to study it. But anyway, thank you so much for that. It is true that at the end of the day, when it comes to strategy, the real strategy for you is the one that works for you. You are not going to be able to replicate another person's strategy if it doesn't work for you, because it's not written on a stone. All right, I've said that. I think Tanya wanted to make a contribution there, because I said that you were blinking your mind. Please go ahead and do that.
Okay, thank you so much, TC Obehi, for that. I just wanted to preface this because I've been a strategist in normal businesses, SMEs, scaling businesses, tech startup, tech companies, a lot of businesses. So I just wanted to preface this. The relevance is very important, and everything said. However, there are certain frameworks, because I have had situations where people have been telling stories and they are not getting the results that they want because of not having this proper structure. So having frameworks and structures are more or less guidelines, kind of like when we have a dam, so that the water does not overrun over the riverbank and does not cause erosions. This is very important to preface that, because I've had those kind of situations. So you cannot go into a sales situation and start telling the prospect that is already at the bottom of the funnel, that is already in buy mode, an origin story. That will not suit the need. That's why these frameworks are created. You cannot go into a sales situation or somebody that is exploring, that is in research mode, and you'd go and tell them a conversion story. That will not hit the goal. So it's always very important to pre-frame that in terms of the type of stories. Stories should have middle and beginning and all those things, as well as the relevancy. But a story can be relevant, but if you are telling it at the wrong stage of the sales, because here we are talking about business storytelling. So it's not just normal stories. And in the context of business storytelling, you are leading with stories to drive the narrative of your business so that you can have sales. So I just wanted to pre-frame that, because I've had situations where I've been called upon to fix these problems because they were telling stories, but they were the wrong stories. So you need to know what are the stages, what are the stories you need to tell at which stage of the sales cycle. This is very important. At which stage of the sales cycle, so you will know what are the stories that you will have. Because the story that is on your website, that's probably your narrative, that is your origin story, that's top of the funnel. But if somebody is at the bottom of the funnel, they are in buy mode, then you do not go and tell them that type of story. So it's very important to note that.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya, for that clarification. I think that also is very important to understand because, of course, when we say framework, is not in itself self-explanatory. Sometimes it needs some explanation to understand it because there are different variety from where you can see the same object. So yeah, it depends from where we are seeing it. You started perhaps not knowing all what you need, what you needed to be able to tell your story today, but you grew along the way. So in your line of business, in your line of interaction with people, have you met some businesses who have told you, well, I don't know how to approach my story. I don't know how to tell my story to put it in a very simple way. I don't know how to tell my business story. Has it ever occurred to you? Or if you haven't, if somebody have tell you something like that, what would you tell to such an individual as a kind of advice?
I actually have heard that every day of my life since I started my business. I think it's also given the fact that we work a lot of times with tech companies. A lot of the time they're like, no, but we don't have a story to tell. This is a tech product. It's not an aspirational product. It's not a luxury product that needs a story. So I get that all the time, but most of the time I help them reframe that. I remember we were working with a fintech, and the founder told me that they don't have a story because it's not necessary. So I asked him, why did you start your business? What was the reason behind your business? Why did you start it? And he was like, when I was a child, my mom was an informal business owner, and she would go to work. She would sell things at the market and everything. And when she would come home, there wasn't always enough money, so we will have pap in the morning, we'll have pap in the evening and everything like that. And he started describing the environment in which he grew up. And then I ended up asking him, so why did you start your bank? He's like, because my mom never had access to financing to grow a business because she was an informal business owner. So I wanted to create a platform that would allow informal business owners to be able to have access to wealth building and having proper financing tools and everything. I'm like, there's your story. Because that now you just gave me an origin story. And the minute I told him that, he was shocked. He's like, that is true. That's the origin story. So we always have a story, and it's always around what is the frame around why did we start a business? Why do we think our product is better? That's your narrative. Why do you think your product is better? Why did you start your business? Who is it for? What is the struggle? Like, he shared the story of his mom. That was his customer's journey. That is a hero journey. Like the woman that goes to work, that has to go to work to sell at the market. She comes home. She keeps the money at home. She doesn't have a bank account. That's the customer's journey. I think we always have stories, but it's always you have to reframe how you approach thinking about stories. It doesn't have to be Cinderella. It doesn't have to be Peter Pan kind of story. It can just be the story of the people you want to serve, the stories that you know that inspired you, and your own story that inspired you to start your business.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, time always it run fast. But anyway, I have another question for you, Tanya, before we close the room. And the question I have to do, of course, is related to the origin story too, and particularly where we are looking at where you are today compared to where you came from, which is the before and after kind of bridge in your storytelling for business. How would one approach that? This is kind of a final question I would like to ask. How would you approach that storytelling for business, the before and after?
When you mention the origin story of the business, usually for me at that point, it usually starts with the founder. When you approach your origin story, it's always, hey, what were you what were you doing? What was the challenge that appeared in your life that you felt that you couldn't overcome, or something that came up that you realized that you needed change? For me, it was the fact that I was working and traveling all the time, and I had a child that I wasn't seeing. And at one moment he was small, the next moment he was 7. I didn't know what happened. Like, the time flew by. So that's part of my origin story. So it's always like, what happened? So how your life was going before, what happened that changed your life? That moment that changed your perspective, what you did after that, and where you are now. So that's usually the framework that I approach telling an origin story.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I really do. We're about to close, but I have Mr. Elvis in the room. Elvis, please go ahead and say something. We are about to close. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's just a quick one. I wanted to reflect on the fact that when you're telling a story, I can just give a simple example with regards to, let's say there is a husband and a wife who are going through a divorce. What is it that you tell the court? What is your intent? So the intent is the base of your story. It could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be physical. In essence, the intent determines how you present your story. Something as business operations. What is the intent of the business? Is it a charity? Is it an NGO? So in that essence, that frames exactly what your expectations and the intended. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. I do. Time usually is not our best friend because we cannot hold it. So that's come to an end today. So I really want to thank all of you that have come to the room and have shared your point of view or have listened to us, because yes, it's a game where all of us need to participate. There is the person that is talking, there is the other person that is listening. If there is no one listening, then it wouldn't make much sense for us to talk. So I appreciate all of you that are even be in the audience. So of course, we encourage you next time to raise your hand and add your voice to the conversation, because we also need to hear from you and learn from how you are using storytelling in your own business, because we know that you are using it. We just want to share so that everybody can learn and see it from different perspectives. So I thank all of you. If you want to get any of the book, there are 5 books in the series. It's available. They are available on Amazon. You can pick any of them to read, and of course, share with me after you have done that, because it's a conversation that is continuing. We want to share with one another. So you learn something, share with other people too. So we are going to be here again in 2 weeks' time, because we are here every 2 weeks. Yeah, that is how the conversation usually goes. So I want to thank again Isu that have disappeared probably because of network. I want to thank Dorothea. Thank you so much. You see, the contribution that you make enlarge the conversation, and that is something very interesting. So we really appreciate what you said. Thanks, Elvis. Thanks to the queen of the room, Tanya. Thank you so much, Tanya. I really appreciate your time and contribution. I really do.